Our next speaker will talk to us about leading change in a changing world. Chris Stevens is a 1974 graduate of Notre Dame, a former Irish basketball player, and past president member of the Notre Dame Monogram Board of Directors. He is one of the 3 original developers of the Keurig premium coffee system. And on behalf of all caffeine addicts, thank you, Chris. And he's currently an assistant teaching professor in the Mendoza College of Business, leveraging his more than 20 years of experience in corporate America in sales and marketing at companies like Procter & Gamble and Anheuser-Busch. Chris developed the Keurig brand, sales, distribution, and marketing strategies, playing a key role in the success and growth of the company. He was also responsible for all aspects of Keurig's corporate social responsibility practices as part of its commitment to donate at least 5% of pre-tax profits to environmental and social concerns. In the fall of 2012, Chris joined the Mendoza College of Business as a professional specialist, teaching undergraduate courses. After retiring from Keurig in 2013, he began teaching MBA courses here at Notre Dame in business problem solving, change management, and entrepreneurship. And he joined the Mendoza faculty full-time in 2017. Chris has won multiple teaching awards during his time at Notre Dame and also received the Alumni Association's Harvey Foster Award. Some of you saw Brady Quinn receive that just yesterday. Chris is a past recipient of that prestigious award. So Chris, please come to the stage. Let's give him a warm round of applause.
Thank you, Michael. I tell you, what a great crowd. I tell you, I know my wife, you know what I mean? I'm an ugly guy. Hey, Bruno Rocco, help the judge find his wallet. Hey, everybody, what a great group. So I think you're something like 300 strong. They should make a movie out of this. But I'm going to talk to you today like I would talk to my students. So I've had the blessings to be able to teach here for the last 10 years. And I've had got my nose bloody on the street for about 40 years and try to stay engaged as much as I can with some businesses too. So, clicker not working. There you go. I'm going to talk to you about 6 things today. So 1, innovation, leadership, entrepreneurship, dreams, innovation, and kindness, purpose. So I found this book a few years ago, 5. So my question to you is, where do you want to be in 5 years? Where do you want your club to be in 5 years? And I ask my students, where do you want to be in 5 years? So it's a pretty neat book, and on the first day of every class for 10 years, I give my students a gift. Their first assignment is due about 2 weeks before class starts, which is not a resume builder for them, but it's just basic, it's getting to know you. And I try to find out as much as I can about each of them, and I buy them this book. And I write into the cover a personal note, and I gift wrap it. It's my gift to them. So I want them to think about where they want to be in 5 years. I don't know where I wanted to be in 5 minutes when I was here. I basically raged my way through this place. But it's a pretty cool book, and I've actually bought 5 copies that I thought maybe, Dolly, at some point you could raffle off at dinner or something like that. So I believe in dreams. I was a foster kid, bounced around some pretty bad homes, and I did a lot of dreaming when I was a kid. So my question to you is, what's your dream? What's your dream? It's never too late to dream. I still have dreams now, and I turn 70 next time. I'm so old, when I have a birthday, the candles cost more than the cake. When I was a boy, the Dead Sea was only sick. Anyway, so Marianne Rademacher said, stand often in the company of dreamers, for they believe you can do impossible things. The future belongs to those who believe in the beauty of their dreams. Walt Disney said, if you can dream it, you can do it. Go confidently in the direction of your dreams and live the life that you imagine. So Dolly Parton, not too many people have Henry David Thoreau and Dolly Parton on the same slide. But when Dolly Parton was in high school and she was graduating from a small high school, they had to all get up and say what their dream was. I want to be a lawyer, I want to be a doctor, I want to be a farmer. And Dolly Parton got up and said, I'm going to be a country music star in Nashville. And they laughed. And she said, I was galvanized that night. Nobody was going to keep me from my dream. What's your dream? What's your dream? So you're not going to do it alone for your club or anything. There's no such thing as a self-made man or a self-made woman. If you get a chance to watch the commencement address of Reverend Ray Hammond in 2014, he was a pinch hitter for Lord Christopher Patton, who got sick in the last second. A Protestant minister from Philadelphia came in and gave the most incredible commencement address And as he said, we all stand on the shoulders of giants who went before us. So that's me 52 years ago. I never played sports growing up. I was in different homes and stuff like that. And then I grew, and the good Lord blessed me with some pretty good hops. And I had a chance my junior and senior year to play basketball, and I had some choices in terms of the schools, and I chose Notre Dame. So we had a lot to celebrate back in those days, and you've got a lot to celebrate. Anyone want to take a guess about what this picture is? Oh. Russ Dodge. So this is January the 19th, 1974, when we ended UCLA's 88-game winning streak, right where it began 3 years before, when Austin Carr had 46 points on a Sunday afternoon on national TV. So I did come here and get an education and play basketball. Good things are going to happen to you, bad things are going to happen to you. So between the summer of our freshman year, and in those days freshmen couldn't play varsity, had to play a freshman schedule. And between my freshman year and then a sophomore year, our captain lost his leg in a motorcycle accident. He was definitely a first-round pick. Our 6'9" power forward had phlebitis and was out for the year, All-American. Our first team All-American point guard flunked out. Our second team All-American shooting guard got kicked out, and our 6'10" center weirded out. We started 5 sophomores, including 2 walk-ons, a walk-on baseball player and a walk-on walk-on baseball player and a football player, against the #1 schedule in the country. And I started that year and played center at 6'6", covering guys like Bill Walton. We went 6-20. We were the laughing stock of college basketball, and we got beat actually by Indiana on national TV 94-29. John Ritter outscored the entire team. He had 31 points. My junior year, we got some good recruits in. I got dropped down to about 7th or 8th men. We finished strong, got into the NIT, beat 3 ranked teams to get to the championship, and lost on a jump shot in overtime at the buzzer to Virginia Tech. I was 7th, 8th man. My senior year, I sat. We knocked off UCLA's 88-game winning streak. Had a cup of coffee at #1, finished 26-3, ranked #5. Now you'll notice a directly inverse relationship between the quantity of my playing time and the team's performance. Coach Phillips would readily point that out. But you got a lot to celebrate here too. So this was our dream 26 years ago. There were 3 of us. And we had a dream of changing the coffee world 1 cup at a time. So that's Nick on the left, that's Dick in the middle, and in those days I was Stick. Now I'm Stump. And I got a little bit more snow on the rooftop. But our dream was to change the coffee world 1 cup at a time, and now it's a $14 billion enterprise. So it's pretty amazing in terms of what you can do. We thought it could be good. We thought we could be successful. We almost shut it down 3 different times. And now it's in 42% of homes in the United States. So pretty good dream. So now I have a bunch of companies I invest in. I invest in dreams. I invest in companies that have a purpose, that have a why. Michael mentioned that I worked for Green Mountain Coffee Roaster. They gave 5% of their pre-tax profits to corporate social responsibility initiatives. And I give at least 50% of profits to social platforms or charities or organizations. So change. How do you lead change in a changing world? Things are changing so fast, we can't operate the way we used to. Someone once said, if you don't like change, you're gonna love irrelevancy. Be the change that you wanna see in the world. So I got a bunch of quotes and stuff there, but it's so true. So the whole way of doing and being is a process of our thinking. And so what I want to try to do in the next 30 minutes or so is maybe shake up your thinking a little bit. So I think there's 3 kinds of people in this world. People who make things happen, people who watch things happen, and people who wonder what happened. And so to make change in this day and age, you gotta make things happen. You have to make things happen. You can't wait to react to change, you have to create change. So I had some videos embedded in here that I know Abby or Dolly are gonna be able to share with you the links to. I'm not gonna show them here, but it shows the difference between leadership styles. And I teach a course called Principles of Management. And on the first day of every class, I ask my students, the first question I ask them is, all right, everybody, who's here for Principles of Management? Duh. I said, you're in the wrong class. We're changing the name to Principles of Leadership. You lead people, you manage affairs. People don't need to be led. They need to be inspired. They need to be motivated. They need to have a strategy and a direction and a vision. Father Ted said, the essence of leadership is you have to have vision. You cannot blow an uncertain trumpet. So we've got Haruka Nishimatsu from Japan Airlines. It's a short little video about how he leads, and he leads alongside of his people. And then finally, Colin Powell was asked at a White House fellow, what do you think is the real characteristics of being a leader? If you could think of one word about what a great leader needs to have or do or be, what would you say? What? Care. Love it. Anybody else? Vision. Ma'am? Servant's towel. Yeah, all of those are important. What Colin Powell says, the really essence of leadership is trust. You have to build up trust. You have to earn that trust every single day. Respect is built up through hundreds of positive deeds and destroyed by one stupid one. Integrity retained is invaluable. Integrity once lost is irretrievable. How many times do we have to turn on the internet or turn on the TV and see a dumb mistake that somebody has made because they got arrogant, because they got sloppy? So I've got a bunch of other links to videos, TED Talks that I use here in my class. Admiral Bill McRaven, who gave the Make a Bed speech at the 2014 Texas commencement address. Denzel Washington's got a wonderful commencement address. I'm a big fan of Simon Sinek. Why? The Golden Circle. If you don't understand people, you don't understand business. And I've got some books here also that you might want to consider reading. Mike Harity wrote Coaching Wisdom. Mike was the Associate Athletic Director for Student Welfare and Development here for a few years, 8 years. And he wrote a book about 13 coaches who did it the right way. And what were their characteristics? What were their philosophies? How did they lead? And he includes Lou Holtz, Scotty Bowman, who won 5 Stanley Cups with 3 different teams, Don Shula, Brad Stevens, who didn't win a championship because of the 13, there's over 100 championships or world titles among them. It's a great book. I think you really will enjoy it. The one on the left is Winner's Dream by Bill McDermott, who was a CEO of SAP, a $30 billion software company out of Germany. And he was a blue-collar kid that grew up on Long Island. And he was working 3 jobs when he was 14, 15, 16 years old. His story, you'll love, it's called Winner's Dream. And the book on the right is one I wrote about an ND buddy of mine who died of ALS. So we all have these email trains of friends that are serial emailers. They send out the jokes and the anti-this and the anti-that. Well, I got an email one day that from actually a professor here, and he said, hey, I don't know if you guys remember Stump, but he tended bar at Corby's. I remember Corby's. And he's got ALS, he's got a website, and he's trying to raise some money. I thought, Stump, I don't remember no Stump. But I went to the website, and I read what he wrote, and I read about his life, and I thought, you can't make this stuff up. And I had recently lost my wife to cancer, and both of my brothers to a genetic disease called Huntington's disease. So it was a tough year, and I was thinking about it. So I decided to send a generous donation to his website and a speech I did for high school athletes with my top 10 tips for life. Well, he could still talk in those days, and he called me. He said, Hawk, my nickname, this is Stump. I read what you wrote. You and I think exactly alike. Thank you for the donation. You got to write my life story. I said, Jimmy, that's not going to happen. You live in Salem, Oregon. I got a startup company with 5 kids. I live in Boston. I'm not a writer. God has put you in my life. Oh, you can't put it together. So I flew out and I talked to him. He had everything totally organized. He would not say no. He would not. So he was 5'6" tall, from Gary, Indiana. Applied to Notre Dame. Rejected. Applied a second time, rejected. Applied a third time, rejected. Finally got before the admissions board and got in on a probationary basis, which meant if he got anything less than a B, he was out. Worked 3 jobs to work his way through it. He walked onto the golf team as a freshman with 6 returning starters, started all 4 years, monogrammed all 4 years, set the course record at the Burke at 64 that was never broken, set the tournament record at 18 under that was never broken, and his life got more amazing from there. So 100% of all the proceeds go to research for rare diseases right here at Notre Dame. So change. Mark Zuckerberg said the amount of data being created and exchanged among mankind will double every 12 to 18 months. It was kind of also Moore's Law. So think about all these different products and innovations that have happened. Who here took an Uber 5 years ago? Raise your hand. 4 years ago, 3 years ago, 2 years ago. So change. So there's so many things that are happening. So if you, like I said, if you don't like changing, you love irrelevancy. So lots of changes. I went to school here 52 years ago. Half this campus didn't exist. A laptop used to only be derived when sitting down. A cloud used to be a white puffy thing in the sky. A megabyte was something a Great Dane might take out of you. A cell phone was something only convicts used. A microwave was something you saw in a swimming pool. A tweet was something a sighted bird did. An apple was something you gave the teacher. A keyboard was only found on an organ or piano. Google was followed, a 1 followed by 100 zeros. A flat screen was used to keep mosquitoes out. Amazon was a river. Snapchat was a quick conversation. And Yelp was something a dog did if you stepped. So change, those terms are all there when we were around, but they mean something different today, okay? So again, if you don't like change, you're gonna love your relevancy. Keurig changed coffee consumer habits. Laptops changed how we work. Smartphones changed how we stay connected. Social media changed how we communicate. Netflix changed how we watch shows. TiVo changed our viewing habits. Uber has shadowed the taxi industry. Airbnb is crushing hotels. Amazon.com is dramatically affecting retailing. And a guy that went to my high school, Kevin Plank, started Under Armour out of his grandmother's basement the same year we started Keurig in 1996. SAP CEO Bill McDermott's had a great quote. He said, IT used to support the business. Today, man, IT is the business. Amazon.com did about $430 billion last year, and about 40% of their sales came from algorithms. You bought a pair of boots, and up pops, hey, do you need socks? You want to go to SC Spark? You want to do pop-ups, my goodness. So this is a chart, kind of an eye chart, but it was basically taken of people who went in a bricks and mortar store and saw something, but then went home and bought it off of Amazon.com. And who are the retailers that are most at risk? These are the retailers that closed their doors in 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020. So change. Creating change, developing platforms that stay ahead of the competition. So this is a chart. The top line shows Amazon.com's sales growth. The bottom line is their profit growth. So their investors knew this was a long-term play. At Keurig, we launched on Martin Luther King Day, 1998, and we knew that the first thing we wanted to do was establish Keurig in offices, because then people would sample, they'd try it, and then they would hopefully want to buy a home, when we came out with it. Our investors knew this was a long-term play. Every dime that we made from the office business, we sunk into developing the home unit. And so you can see there, but now take a look at Amazon.com's profits. They're starting to grow like crazy, which allows them to do things like Blue Origin, take people up into space. So Kevin Plank, who started Under Armour, they just spent $710 million on apps. So fitness apps went from being virtually nothing to projected to be a $120 billion industry by 2023. And those are the 3 apps that he bought. And as he says, Amazon.com, 40% of their sales come from their recommendation engine. We can recommend stuff too. So now you have athletes that are wearing all kinds of different monitors and things like that that help them become, help people keep track of their health and well-being. So anybody want to take a guess in terms of where this picture was taken? It's not Times Square, but it's a large open area, and everybody's looking up, anticipating something. That is St. Peter's Square. So a lady took this picture in 2005 when Pope Bernard was named Pope, and came back 8 years later when Pope Francis became Pope and took the exact same spot. Change. Change. If you don't like change, you're going to hate irrelevancy even less. So part of that is education. Leadership and learning are indispensable to each other, said President Kennedy. And part of the things we're doing here is we're helping people who have finished their traditional careers, but they still got a lot of tread left on their shoes, come to Notre Dame or come back to Notre Dame for an entire academic year. They can audit with the help of a faculty advisor 2 to 4 courses across the entire university. And we started this back in 2018 because the questions were coming up from people. Here's basically the motto of the Inspired Leadership Initiative. But we wanted to help people continue their education. So this is our 3rd cohort. We have 22 pretty amazing people here. Father John, Jack Brennan, the entire board was totally behind this. My partner, Tom Schreier, class of 84, I think this university basically runs on the class of 84. But he helped me put this together. We put this together over about 1.5 years, and we launched it a few years ago. So the program, as I started to mention, we actually designed a course for the fellows that they take in terms of the great book, The Heart's Desire, and Designing an Inspired Life. Spouses and life partners are invited to actively participate. We have a period of discernment. So this is tailored after programs at Harvard and Stanford, and they're pretty much project-oriented. You have to know pretty much what you want to do when you apply. We think you may not even know what the possibilities are, so we have a really strong discernment process. Access to all of Notre Dame's expansive global network. an invitation to spiritual enrichment, which we can do that here, and engagement in university with the community and the broader community of bio. So the program elements are our core course that the fellows take, access to tailored curriculum that they design themselves, working with a faculty advisor. And if you've been in the banking industry or if you've been in nonprofit for 30 years, you probably don't want to do anything in those things. You want to maybe take a music course or a literature course or something. Weekly lunches with amazing guest speakers, weekly dinners just for the fellows to deepen community, vast opportunities to mentor, guest lecture, and collaborate with students and faculty, access to all of Notre Dame's amenities and gateways, and a full week immersion in May. After the last exam is done next week, we took the first cohort to Rome and Assisi, and then a second trip to the Holy Land. This group, because of COVID and stuff, we decided to do it right here in the United States, and we're going to New Mexico. So that's the current cohort. We have the capacity for scholarships, so if we have somebody we think is going to add incredible value to the cohort, we don't want money to be an obstacle. So if you have an interest in it, you can check it out at ili.nd.edu, and we'd be happy to give any information that you want to. So leadership is never about the role, it's always about the goal. And I've tried to do some things in businesses to try to be able to help students with their become leaders. You got to fill a need or create a want. Fill a need or create a want. We don't need 350 lattes at Starbucks. Well, maybe some of us do. But there have been no innovation in the coffee industry since Joe DiMaggio, Mr. Coffee, and drip coffee back in the 1960s. So we felt if we could make it a cup at a time, we'd have, you'd have variety, freshness, convenience, no waste, no cleanup, and no hassle. So I've only done that a couple of times. But anyway, talk to consumers. Do they really want what you have? People sometimes develop programs and stuff and products, but they don't really talk to the potential consumers. Where do you want it to be in 5 years? I'm obviously a pretty big one on that one. And build a team with different strengths. Somebody once said, if you have a partner and you always agree in business, one of them is unnecessary. So you want to recruit people that have complementary skills. Make every day like the day before vacation day. Remember you take a 2-week vacation that day before? You've got lists, you're wild, you're running around, you're doing, why can't we make every day like the day before vacation day? All right? Getting organized. I guarantee you, if you write down on your, not with your phone, write it down next to your bed, the 4 or 5 things you want to achieve the next day, I guarantee you'll sleep better and you'll wake up with a sense of purpose. And a friend of mine told me that every single time he gets up in the morning, when he swings his legs around, he puts them on the ground and says, this is going to be a great day. It's all about attitude, all right? So assume it'll take twice as long and twice as much money. Attract people who believe what you believe. Again, Simon Sinek, if you haven't seen any of his videos, his TED Talks, they're worth it. Integrity maintained is invaluable. As I said, integrity once lost is irretrievable. Constantly evaluate your plan. Listen to your customers. And if you have to pivot and change, don't be so arrogant that you don't think you have to change. Listen to your customers, all right? So Project Oxygen, Google, pretty highly respected company, right? They asked their engineers to take 20% of their time and do nothing but create, nothing relative to what their current responsibilities are. Then they asked their employees, how do you build a better boss? Give us the things that you'd like to see in your managers. What kind of skills, what kind of way should they lead? And they came up with 8 things. 1, have a clear vision and strategy for the team, help employees with career development, express interest in all well-being and success, have technical skills so you can advise the team, be a good communicator and listen, be a good coach, be productive and results-oriented. So in your different clubs and stuff, what type of a culture do you create? Dan Coyle has written a great book called The Culture Code. If you haven't read it yet, I highly recommend it. Or you can go to YouTube and type in Dan Coyle Culture Code, and you can see him giving a couple of lectures where he pretty much handles it. Culture, creating culture is a function of leadership. And then finally, empower your team. Don't micromanage. So, great innovation requires creativity. And if you take a look at many students in this day and age, they walk all across campus with their earbobs on, and this is what they're doing. So being able to find a place to get outside your head and to quiet the voices is really important. So creativity can be the difference between an acceptable solution and an exceptional one. So in 5 seconds, if you've done this, keep it to yourself. Just count to yourself. How many F's are in the seconds in 5 seconds? What do you got? How many did you get? 3, 4? Do I hear 5? 6. So a lot of times we think in a very linear fashion, particularly when we're under pressure. And when I first did this, I saw the first 2 letters of finished files, and I thought, okay, it's got to be, and I literally scanned just the first letter of every word until I stumbled on an of, and then time was up. So being able to get outside of your head is really key. So creativity also creates memorable brands. How many can you get? Eat Mo Chicken. Chick-fil-A. What's in your wallet? Capital One. I'm loving it. Mickey D's. Every kiss begins with, come on guys, you need to get there, let's go. And I can't believe he went to Jared, the ultimate driving machine, BMW. 15 minutes can, oh, how sick are you of that? Between Flow and Progressive and the Limu Emu. You're in good hands with? Nice. We'll leave the line on for you. Motel 6. Discount double check. Stay front. Hey, don't think we don't know who you are. You're that discount double check guy. You can deal with this, so you can deal with that. You can deal with this, so you can deal with that. Kia has rats as their brand spokespeople. Somebody said they're not rats, they're rodents. Okay. But Kia Soul, it works for them. All right? You're like where you look, I guarantee it. Men's Warehouse. Stay thirsty, my friends. You know I don't drink beer often, but when I do, I prefer Dos Equis. So my point is, does your club have a brand? How do you develop that brand? How do you make it so that people want to be, that the young graduates and stuff want to be a part of your club? How do you create that? What's your message? What's your why? What's your purpose? What's your belief? About 85% of new brands or businesses fail. What do you think is the number one reason why? What would you say? Run out of money? Unrecognizable? I would submit to you that they didn't sell enough. Nothing happens in business until somebody sells something. So if you're an organization and you don't have the selling skills, you need to find somebody who can communicate the message. So Converse All-Stars, remember this growing up, gang? You veterans like me? This was the athletic shoe. High black, high white, low black, low white, no support. And then along comes Nike and Adidas and Puma and all these things, and they go bankrupt. So Nike buys them out of bankruptcy, and what are they about now? They about styling. I got 4 pairs. I have no idea where they came from. One's got ND logos on it, one's kind of gray and charcoal, one's brown. But they made it into a different brand, being able to pivot. So Dolly Parton, she was a wise lady. She said something once. She said, to enjoy the beauty of a rainbow, sometimes you got to put up a little bit of rain. I tell my students, victories are going to feed your ego. Setbacks will build your character. And we've all had them. We've all had them. Anybody recognize this gentleman? His name is Joe Girard. So Joe Girard, born to Sicilian parents in Detroit, father used to beat him regularly, started shining shoes at the age of 9, had a paper route at the age of 11, kicked out of high school, arrested for breaking and entering at the age of 16, kicked out of the Army, and then he almost declared bankruptcy. He was 35 years old and couldn't feed his family. He said, something's got to change. This isn't working. He felt like he had the gift of gab, and so he walked into a car dealership and convinced them to hire him. He promptly sold 2 cars and got fired because the senior salespeople didn't want this whippersnapper taking the business. So he walked into Marilot Chevrolet in East Point, Michigan. He convinced the owner to hire him and said, I won't take anybody that comes through the door. I'll bring them through the door. The guy said, whatever. He went on to sell 13,000 cars out of that dealership, one at a time. He became the #1 person on big ticket sales, according to the Guinness Book of World Records. He averaged 6 new car sales a day, 18 in one day. He redefined customer intimacy. Before the internet, he would get up at 4:30 in the morning and write cards, handwritten cards to his customers, to his prospects. When's the last time we did that and our students did that? So on the first day of every class, before I give them the 5 book, I hand out thank you notes. They're already stamped, and they have to write a thank you note right there in class. And I said, I'll mail them for you. But Joe Girard, thank you notes made the difference. He maintained meticulous records of his customers and prospects. If you knew Joe Girard, if you bought a car from Joe Girard, you got a handwritten card from him once a month. Ramadan, Easter, your son's graduation, your daughter's wedding. If you were going to buy a car or you knew someone who was, you sent them to Joe Girard. So Lou Holtz, great man. He had 3 simple rules for his football team. 1, just do the right thing. If you do the right thing, you don't have to worry about what you lied about. 2, don't compare yourself to anybody. Just be the best that you can be. And 3, show people that you care. So show people that you care. All right, how do we do that in our club? How do we do that with our staff? How do we do that with our family? Showing people that you care. Kindness. That's what it's all about. And we need a kinder world for sure. So I mentioned about this book, so I give it to my students, and 5,000 books later, the author loves me. But where do you want to be in 5 years? So as I mentioned, I've got 5 books here that I thought maybe you can draw business cards or something like that. It's got really neat stories in it. So Julia Child graduated from a French cooking school, had a quirky idea for a TV show, and 4 years later won an Emmy. Jeff Bezos was living in a 500 square foot apartment, and 5 years later he was worth $10 billion. The internet came along. What kinds of things create opportunities for you to change? Anybody know who Peter Frates is? Peter Frates was diagnosed with ALS when he was 27 years old. He was a former captain of the Boston College baseball team, was an assistant coach, and I did a thing for athletic directors and the coaches down in Florida, and this gal who heard me speak about the book said, hey, I live in Boston, you live in Boston, our assistant coach just got ALS, the family's devastated, can you come talk to him? So I came and I talked to the team, I talked to the family, got to know them, helped them put together events. He had an incredible network of support. And as you may know, ALS is neurodegenerative. And so he was in his bed, totally locked, only able to use his computer with his eyes. And he was surfing the internet. And he stumbled upon 2 firefighters dumping cold water on each other to raise awareness for their ladder. He said, we should do that for ALS, because at the time, ALS was really kind of fractionated. Peter Frates, from his bed, unable to move, developed the Ice Bucket Challenge, which raised over $200 million for ALS. And if Peter Frates can do that, what can you do? What can you do over the course of the next 5 years? So I love finishing kind of with a quote from Teddy Roosevelt. Far better is it to dare mighty things and win glorious triumphs, though checkered with failure, than to rank with those poor spirits who neither enjoy nor suffer much, for they live in the great twilight that knows neither victory nor defeat. So the people who are crazy enough to change the world are the ones who do. How do you want to make changes and enhancements in your club in the next year? What's your plan? What's your goal? What's your purpose? Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. They asked me if I'd leave some time for questions. I have no idea. No one's going to mistake me for tech support. I don't even know what time it is. But if we have time for questions, I'd be happy to take any that you've got. Let me just tell you that this university, I'm the only thing keeping you from me and Marcus Freeman. So I'll be brief if you want me to. But I just want you to know the quality of the students that we have here is unbelievable. I do live presentations in my classes with nonprofits, Stryker Corporation, West Monroe Partners, different companies, helping them with challenges. I break the students into teams, and I have 2 to 3 weeks to work on something. And we just got done with 2 days and 20 presentations, and they absolutely blow it out of the water. We did some stuff for Anheuser-Busch once, and one of it was, hey, we have a dominant market share, we're in a declining industry, and we're not sure about how to continue to grow sales and profits. So the students got together, they found a small distillery company that was privately owned. They convinced the owner to give them all the financials. They did a 10-year discounted cash flow analysis on the presentation. Three months later, Anheuser-Busch bought the company, and then the students, hey, professor, will you get a piece of that action? But they are amazing students. Questions? Yes, sir.
Yes, Chris, thanks for your presentation. Appreciate you sharing the twists and turns and ups and downs of life. You've been through a lot. Would you comment on Coach Faust, Coach Jerry Faust? I've always been impressed by him and his resilience and response. You know, he had his dream job, beat LSU, #1, didn't work out the way he wanted. I got to see him. My dad got to visit with him, his last pilgrimage to campus, which actually is to the bookstore. Coach Faust talked to him for 45 minutes, you know, in 2005, and I just was impressed that things didn't work out the way he planned, and he didn't let it break him. He stayed true to who he was. It sounds like it resonates with what you're talking about.
Yeah, I think so. We're all going to have losses and setbacks, and I had a few, unfortunately, in my family recently, and they can break you. But I think part of being, as you grow, I know being in foster homes and stuff, you kind of develop a mental toughness to be able to deal with things. And so I just know stuff is going to happen, and it's not how you handle. It's not if you're going to have problems, Dolly Parton said. It's going to be how much how do you overcome them? So I'm not really sure about Coach Faust, but I just know that there's some great examples of people that fell on their face, made some mistakes. Desmond Tutu said, without forgiveness, there is no future. And if you've got something that's unsettled with a sister, a brother, a son, or whatever, that's holding you back, man, it's not going to be good. Learn to forgive yourself and learn to forgive others, and you can move forward. Any other questions?
We have a question back here, Chris.
Love the presentation. Of all the companies you've been a part of, the innovations, either personally, professionally, what are you proudest of?
Well, I got to be proud of Keurig in terms of what we're doing there, but I've also got some companies that are smaller that are doing really good things for people. The Keurig ride was quite a ride. One of the things I said when I saw the prototype, and I did a market plan for them for free, and they liked it, and the two investors said, hey, why don't you come on and do this? I was like, come on, guy, I run big companies. I wasn't much in those days, but I was all I thought about. And I said, this is going to be a problem, that K-Cup. This plastic, which is not recyclable or biodegradable, is going to be a problem. And we worked on it for years trying to develop an alternate, and now they have a polypropylene package that's recyclable in about 80% of landfills. But I would probably have to say the Keurig would be the number one. And then raising 5 kids, that's second to none.
That's exactly what I was going to ask. In the 50th anniversary of co-education of women, you mentioned you had 5 daughters. Where are they now?
I only have 1 daughter. I have 4 sons and a daughter.
Oh, 5 kids.
I have, unfortunately, my oldest son went to bed December the 27th and didn't wake up. Bad setback. But I now have 3 sons and a daughter. And 2 of them are in the metro Boston area. And one's in Charleston, South Carolina. Great town. Anybody from Charleston here? Hall's Chop House, baby. That's what I'm talking about. And then I have one in Denver, Colorado. He got into the grass and the marijuana when he was younger and went through some challenges. I had to put him in an outward bound type of thing. And then he wanted to get away from it in Boston, so he moved to Denver, and 2 months later they legalized marijuana. Be careful what you wish for. Russ Dodge.
When you got Keurig going, I can remember you brought those to one of our reunions.
I did.
Within a couple of months, I saw them in every ad agency in Chicago that I called on. How did you get distribution that quickly into that many places?
So the question is, how do we get distribution so broadly with Keurig? So every demo I did, beginning on that day after Martin Luther King Day, when I drove 12 brewers and 40 cases of handmade K-Cups that my kids helped me make, because the vendor that was making our packaging line tried to hold us up for another $170,000. So we had to get to market. And every demo that I did, when I recruited a distributor, because they were already in the offices with their paper products or their water or their coffee services, and so we didn't have money to pay for a sales organization at the time. So I started in New York, then Boston, Philly, DC, and every demo we did, tablecloth, whipped cream, flowers for the ladies, little boom box with the classical music on. So that when they came to the coffee break room to find out what this new Fandango machine was, they weren't going into a break room, they're going into a coffee house. And our theme was Coffee House Taste by the Cup. So it was all about the demo. We didn't spend the money on marketing or like that. It was all about getting people to try the product. And then once they tried the product, it seemed to work out well to keep it. Because we only introduced with 8 different varieties, but a dark roast, a medium roast. Different beans for different genes. Sorry.
I think we have time for one more, Chris.
Yeah, one more.
Quick sports trivia question. In Notre Dame's 60-plus point loss to Indiana back in '71, can you tell us who the leading rebounder was?
Ladies and gentlemen, live. I had 12 rebounds, thank you.
Please give a round of applause to Chris Stevens.
And thank you. What? And now you know the rest of the story.